Hi, Kathleen. Welcome.
Hello.
Welcome back, everyone. I see you're sporting our shirt. Don't
Of
call me
course,
crazy.
I had to.
If anyone would like to buy a t-shirt, you can go to our Facebook store, our website. We also have stickers. All right. Well, welcome, Kathleen. We have Kathleen Kruiper today, and Kathleen has been coming to the BPD Society of BC support group since May 2021 after being diagnosed with BPD in 2020. She studied Culinary Arts at Okanagan College, but is currently focusing on her mental health and artwork. She's hoping to start volunteering with a mental health organization in the near future. Kathleen enjoys making art, hanging out with her mom, and reading. She currently lives in Kelowna, BC, with her cat Luna. Okay, Kathleen, I will turn it over to you to tell us your story.
Awesome. Thank you for introducing me, Bailey. I'm very happy to be here today. I have been attending the BPD Society of BC since May of last year. May the 5th was actually my first time coming to the group. So today is my year anniversary. So I can't think of a
Serendipitous.
better way to celebrate than to be here with you all. So when I first joined the group, my life looked really different. I had left a job after having a mental breakdown. My relationships were very difficult. I had constant anxiety. I didn't leave the house and I was feeling very paranoid. Needless to say, all of my BPD symptoms were out of hand. And I was absolutely terrified the first time that I joined the BPD Society of BC on the Zoom chat. I don't think I talked that entire time, but just being there, I knew that I had found something special. It's a safe space where I can go and talk about my feelings, even if I end up just listening and saying that I'm not wanting to talk. I can just go and not feel so alone. A lot of people there have gone through similar situations, and that's really helped me have that experience. I've also encountered a lot of people that don't understand what BPD is, and there is a lot of stigma around it. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about more of like what BPD really is. There are 9 different criteria, and to get a diagnosis, you need to meet 5 of those criteria. And those criteria are fear of abandonment, unstable relationships, poor self-image, extreme mood swings, self-harm, feelings of emptiness, intense anger, dissociation, and impulsive behavior. Out of those criteria, I fit 8 of the 9. But this means that there are actually 256 different combinations that people with BPD may have. So it can look completely different from one person to another. Another common element of BPD is that there's also co-occurring disorders. So you would rarely get diagnosed with just BPD. For me personally, I was diagnosed with BPD as well as social generalized anxiety and depression. There is treatment for BPD, and it's not possible to overcome, but there aren't actual medications for BPD. So it's a lot of trial and error, which can be very frustrating. It's not impossible, but it is quite a journey to go on. And it's the same for therapy. DBT therapy which is dialectical behavioral therapy, is probably the most well-known of the therapies, but sometimes that doesn't work for people and they need to search for other things. So now that you guys know a little bit about more of what BPD is, I'm going to tell my story since that's why I'm here today. My journey starts at a young age. Growing up, I was bullied a lot in elementary school and high school. It was really hard for me to make friends. In elementary school, I started to get stomach aches every Sunday before I went to class. And until I had grown up and gotten older, I didn't realize that that was my first symptoms and signs of having anxiety. I also had a mental disorder from classmates, teachers, family, everybody from elementary school and high school. So I guess I kind of taught myself young that if I just hide the problems or if I don't talk about them, then people don't have to worry about me. People don't need to ask questions. And so learning that from a young age, it's been really hard to unlearn that. And I'm still going through that. Yeah, I've been told many times that I'm crazy. This is why I got the "Don't Call Me Crazy" shirt. And yeah, I've felt crazy before. It's a difficult disorder to go through. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I knew about the anxiety and depression, but this felt very different from that. And I had psychiatrists and doctors, but I couldn't explain it. I felt very alone. So after high school, I didn't know myself at all. Things always felt very complicated. I was so scared to be alone, yet I pushed everybody in my life away. I went to a few jobs and then decided to go to Culinary Arts school, which surprisingly I did well at, and I actually really enjoyed it. And I was on the honor roll. And yeah, considering how terrifying elementary and high school were, I was very surprised to know that it wasn't always that way. But finding and wanting a career was very important to me. It still is a lot of my self-identity. When I think about what I want and who I am, it often comes back to a career. So in that aspect, I just felt lost. And I know that self-identity is a big part of my BPD and what I go through usually every day. I did find a job after college, but my anxiety got really out of hand. Again, I was able to hide it from the people that I love and the people that I know. But every time weekends were over and I'd have to go back to work the next day, again, that high anxiety would just come at me, and it was very difficult to go through. In 2014, I decided to move to Calgary with my sister. I was feeling very optimistic about the change, but sadly, I had a lot of issues while I was living there. I worked at a bakery and met someone who I thought was special, but the relationship was very toxic, and I still have a lot of trauma that I deal with to this day. My disorders were completely out of hand at this point in my life. My then partner was an alcoholic, so I dealt with that a lot, and it was hard. It was very hard, and it was that fear of abandonment that made me there, that kept me there, that kept me in that relationship. Because again, I was so scared to be alone that I thought, maybe this is what's best for me. Maybe this is what I deserve. Maybe this is, and it was very unfair of myself to keep myself in that relationship. And I still, have feelings of regret and stuff like that. But fear of abandonment for me is another very big part of my BPD story. So that's why I wanted to explain that. After that, I moved back in with my parents in Kelowna. I didn't know who I was. I was angry at myself. I was frustrated with the world. I worked a couple jobs and dealt with my problems on my own again, but it was the whole acting like everything was fine when it wasn't. And I thought that I could do that, honestly, the rest of my life, until I realized that I was angry and I couldn't sleep, and my social anxiety was so bad that I would have panic attacks leaving the house. And it was just a constant spiral of working and anxiety and depression. And what I didn't know at the time was BPD. And I had no idea how to stop that spiral. In 2020, I decided to take care of my mental health and take it more seriously. I had been self-harming for many years, and it was just becoming a big problem. And I just couldn't keep feeling these feelings all the time and ruining so many important relationships. So I met a psychiatrist, and he diagnosed me with all of my disorders, so the BPD and the anxiety disorders and my depression. I didn't know much about the diagnosis, so I decided to do my own research, which I quickly realized was a mistake. A lot of the books that I read were very popular. They were also very old school and very triggering for me. One of the things that it said in the books, that this is words that I found inside of the BPD books.
I keep asking which book.
There are a lot of books. There are majority of the books are not the best for people with BPD. It just is terrifying. So that dangerous, manipulative, abusive, self-destructive people that only care about ourselves. But another thing that was upsetting to me is all of the statistics. BPD is more common than schizophrenia, but not as well known. I was sad to realize that over 70% of people diagnosed with BPD will try to commit suicide at least once in their lifetime. And that 1 in 10 people with BPD will commit suicide, which is 50 times the rate of suicide in the general population. I was going to let that sink in because that's a big one. It wasn't just the books and statistics that spoke out to me. It was the way that I was treated in general. Looking online, I would look at counselors and see that they don't take on people that have BPD. It's not all, I won't say all of them, but there are some that just won't take on patients if they have BPD or if they think that there's a possibility of BPD. And I understand that sometimes you need that extra learning or that extra knowledge, but it can definitely feel like a stab in the back when you're already going through all of these things and you're just trying to get help for it. It's just because we are noted as being too difficult. I've been told by doctors that I don't act like somebody that has BPD, which has been interesting, and that my BPD doesn't seem that bad, which is very invalidating and not the best thing for doctors to be saying to patients. But once I was diagnosed, I was absolutely terrified to tell my friends and family about my diagnosis. It was just one of those things that I didn't know how to approach a situation. But when I did, I realized that people know what BPD is, but they don't actually, well, they've heard of it, but they don't actually know what BPD is all about. So I had to explain what BPD actually is to almost all of my friends. Considering the fact that BPD is such a stigmatized disorder, I find it hard to believe that so many people don't actually know all about BPD. It's just considered a bad disorder. I will also add that I'm very thankful that my friends and family have been so supportive, because I know that some people don't have that, and I can't imagine going through that alone. Sorry. After getting my BP diagnosis, I thought that things would magically get better, but that's not the way the world works. While I was trying to figure out medication, I was trying a new one, which didn't work for me. And my psychiatrist just told me, stop taking the medication. So I did what they said. And it turns out I actually was supposed to slowly wean off that medication, not just abruptly stopped it. So I did end up in the hospital, and I had no idea what was going on. I went there with my mom in emergency, and I was terrified and I had no idea. Like, I just had so many feelings and I just couldn't figure anything out. I did talk to the ER doctor, and he realized pretty quickly what was happening. So luckily they were able to give me medication to calm me down, but it was a very traumatizing experience. A couple of days after that, I went back to the hospital, sorry, just because I was feeling very dysregulated. And again, they just gave me some medication. And I also got a doctor's note. I haven't worked full time in over a year just because of my mental health. But I do want to mention some things that worked for me. Although it took me a while to find them, I did find them, and I have a really nice balance in my life now. It took me over a year to find medication that worked for me, and I went through hell to do that, but I did get there in the end. Through Interior Health in Kelowna, I was able to find a psychiatrist that diagnosed me with my disorders and also helped me with my medications. They also gave me a counselor that I talked to for about 6 months, and I completed an online DBT course through them, and all of that was free. It is in Kelowna. I'm not exactly sure how it's working right now, but that was a really good program for me. I also completed the Bridges and My Recovery Journey at the Schizophrenia Society of BC. They are not just for schizophrenia, it's basically any mental health journey that you're on. After doing DBT, I felt more in control with my life. I still deal with my BPD symptoms, but after doing dialectical behavioral therapy, that one really helped me, and it was such a wonderful thing. Even if you aren't able to get on a DBT program, I know that you guys have one. I'll talk about that. But even if you can't get on one, even finding workbooks, there's workbooks online. There's things that you can do to help you. I'm sure there's even online courses that you can take for DBT, and I found it extremely helpful. But again, that doesn't work for everybody. It's very much an individual type thing. So now a little bit about my life right now. I turned 32 this year in August, and I probably in my teenage years, I didn't think that I would get to this point in my life. I live with my cat Luna, my dog Chewy, my parents, and my brother, and they're amazing. I'm living and coping with my BPD, and I still go to the BPD Society of BC every single week, and that I have never missed a meeting. So every single Wednesday for a year today, and I love it. I really do. I do courses through the Canadian Mental Health Association, and that's at Discovery College. I get counseling from the Connect Counseling in Kelowna. I can't mentally handle working right now, but I've learned where to put a lot of my energy. I found that exercise is very helpful for me in all of my mental health and physical health. I've also started an Instagram account where I post my art, and it's a very just creative outlet that I absolutely love doing. I read a lot of self-help books continuously because I love reading and I love learning and growing, and that's a big part of my life. My mom is my best friend, and I don't know how I could do any of this without her. I'm trying to repair relationships that were hurt while I was going through my hard times with mental health. That's an online, I'm always working on that. That never is going to change, I don't think. I've learned a lot of skills to deal with my BPD, but my emotions are still up and down. I've just learned to accept that's who I am. I have been self-harming for 15 years, and I'm in a good place right now, but even with medication and therapy, it's still an urge that I deal with, and it's hard. I've discovered that I want to volunteer in the mental health field so I can start helping others. I am more than my disorder, and so is everyone else. Looking back, I have a lot of regrets about getting help sooner, and I feel terrible for putting myself through this for so long. But I can say right now that I'm very happy where I ended up. I don't think I've ever talked this much in my whole life. So I'm going to finish up by thanking some people. First off, thank you, Bailey. None of this would be happening without you. None of us would be here without you. This group wouldn't have been made without you. And I just, yeah, it's been so great knowing you this
Thank
past
you.
year. It's just, you're wonderful. I want to also thank all of the facilitators and the people behind the scenes that work at the BPD Society of BC, because even if we don't know what you look like, you're still an amazing part of this community, and I just appreciate that. Also, thank you to everybody that shows up to the BPD Society of BC every week, because if it's new faces or people that I've seen since I started joining, it's always great. I feel comfortable. I'm not judged. I feel like I belong there. And even if I don't have a topic, I feel like I can always learn something and always get something out of every single meeting. So if anybody's ever wanting to join it, I just want to say it's just a beautiful place to be. And then lastly, I want to thank my family and friends, because I would not be doing this without them, and I wouldn't be here without them. So thank you. I do want to end on a positive note, because most of my story has been a little sad. So I've learned that people who have BPD are not what the stigma suggests, but rather resilient, passionate, creative, and understanding people. BPD may be a battle, but that doesn't mean that it defines our lives. And that's it. Thank you, Bailey.
Thank you. Yeah, that was so beautiful, and I appreciate you sharing. I know it took a lot of courage. Yeah.
It did. Yep. I'm still a little nervous.
Yeah, no, that was great. Yeah. And if anyone has maybe some questions for Kathleen, we can put them in the comment box there. You went through a lot of my questions anyways. And if there's anything else that's like on your heart and mind for anyone that may be tuning in that's newly diagnosed or still struggling with BPD, you can always share that. Or
I just, again, mentioning reading those books and looking at those statistics, and even firsthand experience of how people treat you after you get that diagnosis can be scary. But that's why finding a place like this can be important. And even if you do find medication that works, even if you do have the DBT therapy and that works, there's still things that you need to talk to. And that's why I love the society, is even when I'm feeling well, I can still go and learn something. When I'm feeling bad, I can just listen and not say anything, but I'm still learning something. So I think this support group has just been, like, I could talk on and on about how great this society is, because it's been amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, and I believe that it's important to have like accessible and affordable services. And I know that there's still like a lot of gaps. Like we've come so far, but there's so far to go still. I know like throughout BC, like we're a BC organization. We're a registered charity, but we focus on BC. But we've had throughout the past 2 years, we've been online, and now we're transitioning to hybrid services where we'll be doing in person and online. But what we've noticed over the past couple of years being online is that we've had people from all over the world come to our virtual support group, people from Guatemala, Africa, US, Australia, everywhere. So, I mean, the need is so great. We aren't alone. This disorder is prevalent in so many people's lives, and it just shows that the need is so great for the service, for having like community, and coming to a place where people want to share their experiences of validation, shared experiences, and like filling in that gap, because I feel like it's a place where it's like part of the continuum of care, like between, like if someone's just coming out of hospital, for example, people, and then they want a holding space before going to treatment or something. It's like part of the continuum of care. So yeah, I think that speaks to, I don't know if that speaks to your
Well,
experience.
even from my point of view, like even if I was able to come to these meetings in person, like in some ways I don't want to say thankful, but because that's weird, but I am a little thankful for COVID because a lot of things have moved online. So me personally, even though I don't live where you guys are doing the meetings, I don't know if I could personally go in. So even for that
Right.
aspect
Yeah.
of just being able to, like, I have severe social anxiety. So even just being able to sit at home on my computer and just like be a
Mhm.
comfortable, calm place and just listen and learn because it's amazing.
Right, yeah, and rural and remote communities, so it's been
Mhm.
filling that gap, yeah, so
Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing your experience about having social, we've had people come to, the support group, like, in person and
Yeah.
sat in the parking lot for, 2, 3 weeks before they, like, came and had the courage to show up. Eventually, they were able
Yeah,
to.
I think if I had to go in person, it would
Yeah.
take me at least I'd need the build up. I'd probably go, wait, not go in, come back the
Mhm.
next week, try it again. But yeah,
Yeah.
eventually I would show up.
Yeah, yeah, well, I mean, no, thank you for sharing your experience about the
Of
social anxiety
course.
part too,
Yeah.
and, you'll notice in the, chat, just maybe a little bit, we haven't actually mentioned about our support group. You can find all the services on our website at bpdbc.ca, like you mentioned, but just maybe talking about our support group, we do our online support group that you've been attending for the past year. Congratulations, that's a huge commitment.
Thank
Um,
you.
yeah, so we have it on the first and third Wednesday nights, so bi-weekly, 7 to 8:45, and then we will be doing our Victoria support group in person again, same time, 7 to 8:45 on the second and fourth Wednesdays at 125 Skinner Street. And we are hoping to start opening, like, the other locations. We're just in the process of looking for other facilitators, and so we'll be working, that's a work in progress right now. So that's where we're at in this moment, transitioning.
Yeah.
Um, and and so yeah, and for anyone that's looking for DBT programs, affordable programs, we do have our DBT program that we just started our pilot project in January, and so we're in the process of just wrapping that up this in next month, and we're starting. Our intakes are open right now, and we have our intakes open for the next month, and then it'll start from July to December. So we're hoping to do 2 of those a year, and and any other DBT programs that you're looking for, we have our kind of like our resource section and our resource list on our website again. So I noticed there was a comment about people searching for
Mm.
DBT. So anything that people are looking for around, like, what we do or other resources in the community, just go to our website. Yeah, bpdbc.ca, or if you'd like to donate to support our DBT, because we're all like self-fund, or we're funded by, as a charity to run these programs. So yeah, thank you very much again, Kathleen, for attending today and sharing your experience with having BPD, and I really appreciate you attending.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been amazing knowing you this past year, and I can't wait for many more years.
Yes, yes. So many things to come in the future, and
Of course.
collaborations and
Yes,
such.
I love
Yeah.
it.
All right.
Thank you so much for letting me tell my story today. It's
Yeah.
been amazing. Yeah.
You're welcome. And we have one other person. We have Stephanie Darling at 5:30, person with lived experience, and yeah, at 5:30. So stay tuned for that. And we have one other event at 6:30, our closing interactive event that we always have every year with our little orchids that we create, and every person on that's on can share with us what their experience is. We have a new topic every year, and this year it's how do you build a sense of community and feel more connected, and then people can share in there what people can share with us what their answers are, and then we create a little orchid tree. So yeah,
That's
if
lovely.
yeah, if you want to take part in that, you can.
Yeah, I can't
Okay,
wait to watch the rest of it. I'll be watching. But yeah, it's been amazing. Thank you so much.
awesome. You're welcome. Thank you so much. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.